The heartbreak and drama surrounding Faye and Yoko's relationship had barely settled when an unexpected wave of fans came crashing in, this time demanding reconciliation. Fans of both actresses had been caught in the emotional tornado of their breakup, but now a new wave of emotion took over. The message was clear. Faye and Yoko, come back together. It all started as an innocent comment on a fan page, a single fan writing, "Please, you two belong together. It's not too late to fix things." What seemed like a small plea quickly turned into a tidal wave. Social media exploded with similar messages. Some fans begged, others pleaded, and a few even made emotional videos, pouring out their hearts about how much Faye and Yoko's relationship had meant to them. The hashtag FayeYoko comeback began trending, making its way to every platform: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, even Facebook. Fans who had once been divided between their love for Faye and Yoko were now united in a single cause. They wanted the two women back together. And they weren't just asking, they were demanding. It was as if the relationship they had come to cherish was their own, and they weren't ready to let go. As the posts flooded in, the pressure mounted. Faye's latest cryptic posts about healing and self-love had garnered even more attention, sparking a new round of will they or won't they speculation. Some believed the posts were a direct message to Yoko, while others thought Faye was simply working through her emotions. Regardless of their true meaning, fans couldn't ignore the connection they still felt between the two women. They wanted answers and they wanted closure, but not the kind that left them with a sense of finality. They wanted them to come back together. It wasn't just the fans of Faye or Yoko who were rallying for this reconciliation either. The GL community, which had been so invested in their journey as a couple, began creating elaborate tribute videos, editing together moments of their most touching scenes. These fans poured their hearts into these projects, capturing the chemistry that once existed between the two actresses. The edits were both heartbreaking and hopeful, filled with captions like, "They were meant to be," and "The story isn't over." The emotional weight of these fan-made tributes tugged at the heartstrings of anyone who saw them. Faye and Yoko's chemistry, the way they once laughed together, the way their eyes softened when they were close, it was impossible to ignore. The message was loud and clear. The fans weren't ready to let go. The desperation for reconciliation only grew as new fans joined the movement. People who hadn't been fully invested in Faye and Yoko's relationship before the breakup suddenly found themselves immersed in the story. They watched the old interviews, the red carpet moments, the fan interactions. They saw the genuine affection in their eyes, the way they communicated without words. They saw a love story that had been torn apart, and they weren't okay with it. In the meantime, Yoko had remained silent. Her Instagram was still filled with professional content, photo shoots, and brand promotions, but there were no personal posts about her emotions or well-being. The silence was deafening to fans who were waiting for a sign that she still cared. Her fans were equally divided. Some supported her silence, believing she needed to heal, while others pushed her to acknowledge the demand for reconciliation. But silence didn't satisfy the masses. Meanwhile, Faye continued to be active on social media, though her posts were more cryptic than ever. She had shared posts about strength, independence, and healing, things that many fans saw as a sign of moving on from the past. But they weren't ready to accept that. They still believed there was a chance for a happy ending. Some fans even began to suggest that Faye and Yoko had always been a publicity stunt, designed to capitalize on their chemistry for the sake of their shows. While this theory didn't have much traction, it didn't stop people from using it as a reason to fuel the demand for a public reconciliation. Fans began speculating that if Faye and Yoko came back together, it would make them even more powerful as a couple. They believed it would be a victory not just for the two women but for the entire GL community. A reconciliation would send a message of love and acceptance, a message that would resonate far beyond Thailand and the entertainment world. This was no longer just about two actresses, it was about an entire movement. Amidst all the chaos, some fans took a more practical approach. They began organizing petitions, creating online groups, and even sending letters to Faye and Yoko's management teams. Their message was simple: give them a chance to heal together, to work through their differences, and to reignite the magic they once shared. It wasn't just about the fans' personal desires. It was about a belief in the power of love and second chances. As Faye and Yoko continued to navigate their individual journeys in the public eye, the fan-driven campaign for their reconciliation only gained more momentum. It was as if the universe itself was conspiring to bring them back together. Whether it was the constant waves of support from fans, the endless messages flooding their inboxes, or the viral hashtags that had taken over their lives, it seemed inevitable that something had to give. But would it be enough? Was there enough emotional weight in the fans' desire to push Faye and Yoko into each other's arms once again? Or would they continue to drift apart? Only time would tell. But for now, the message from the fans was clear. Faye and Yoko come back together. The hope was alive, and they weren't giving up until they saw their love story continue. The demand for Faye and Yoko to reconcile continued to grow in intensity, with no signs of slowing down. As the days passed, fans refused to accept the idea that their beloved couple had reached an irreversible end. Instead, the insistence for them to reunite only intensified. It was no longer just about a relationship. It had become a battle cry for those who believed in love, second chances, and the idea that relationships, no matter how complicated, deserved to be fought for. This was more than just an entertainment spectacle. It was a movement. It had begun with just a few hopeful posts asking the two to come back together, but now it had evolved into a global campaign, with fans all over the world rallying behind them. Social media platforms became flooded with messages, artwork, edits, and even songs dedicated to the hope of Faye and Yoko rekindling their connection. Fans began to form support groups across multiple platforms, and the hashtag FayeYoko comeback continued to trend non-stop, sometimes even outpacing the news of their individual projects. It was clear that the fans weren't willing to move on. Not yet, not when there was still a glimmer of hope left. In the midst of this growing wave, both Faye and Yoko continued to stay silent on the matter. Their management teams issued generic statements that neither confirmed nor denied any possibility of reconciliation, and as each day passed, the absence of a direct response from the actresses only fueled the fire. Fans began to speculate even more, analyzing every post, every story, every interview in hopes of finding a hidden clue that would lead them to an answer. "They can't be done," some fans insisted. "There's no way they'll let this go. The chemistry is real, and it's too strong to ignore." This collective hope wasn't just about nostalgia for the love story fans had witnessed between the two. It was also about believing in the power of love itself, in the idea that Faye and Yoko could overcome their challenges and emerge stronger together. Fans pointed to other celebrity couples who had gone through public splits and later reunited, using those examples as proof that reconciliation was possible. But with each passing day, some fans began to grow desperate. They started urging Faye and Yoko's teams to intervene, asking them to set up a private meeting or a live-streamed reconciliation event for the fans to witness. The line between public and private began to blur. It wasn't enough for the fans to simply hope that Faye and Yoko would find their way back to each other on their own. They wanted to witness it, to be a part of it, to see the healing process unfold before their eyes. The idea of a public reunion became more than just a fantasy. It became an expectation. A select group of fan pages took things even further. They began to organize petitions, with signatures demanding that the two women reunite for the fans who had supported them through thick and thin. They asked fans to take action and contact both actresses' representatives, urging them to consider the overwhelming support for a reunion. This effort, while bold, only added fuel to the speculation that the fans were becoming obsessed with the idea of the two women coming back together. Yet, amid all the excitement, there was a sense of pressure building. Pressure on Faye and Yoko to give the fans what they wanted, and pressure on their individual careers. Both women were no strangers to public attention, but the level of obsession over their personal lives was something new. Many speculated that the fans' constant demand for reconciliation was starting to affect their professional lives. Yoko, in particular, seemed to be facing the brunt of it. Despite her success in brand endorsements, new projects, and media appearances, fans couldn't help but bring up the relationship at every opportunity. Social media posts directed at her often included demands to address the situation, with one comment reading, Please stop hiding and talk to Faye. It's what we deserve. It seemed that every time she posted something unrelated to the drama, the comments section would explode with questions about Faye, further complicating her already stressful career. Meanwhile, Faye's public persona was also becoming tangled in the expectations of her fans. While she had attempted to show strength and independence in her posts, she was also flooded with comments urging her to make a public statement about the breakup or, even more daring, to reunite with Yoko. Many fans felt that Faye had been the more emotionally open partner during their relationship, and that her silence was a form of vulnerability that they couldn't ignore. However, the pressure was beginning to weigh on her. Interviews where Faye was once charming and playful now felt forced, and her responses to questions about the breakup became more clipped and uncomfortable. She looked tired, as if the emotional burden was beginning to take its toll. And yet, the fans continued to rally around her, insisting that she had the right to be heard and that reconciliation was the only acceptable outcome. On the surface, everything seemed to be at a standstill. Faye and Yoko were both moving forward with their separate careers, but the fans were unwilling to let go. The demand for reconciliation had become a silent, constant hum beneath every project they worked on, and the fans made it clear that they weren't backing down. Even Yoko's recent work was overshadowed by the never-ending speculation. In an interview for a major magazine, she was asked about the reconciliation rumors, and she responded with a brief, "I believe in the power of love." The simplicity of her answer was immediately dissected online. Fans insisted that it was a subtle message meant to hint that Yoko was open to reconnecting with Faye, while others argued it was just a way to avoid commenting directly on the situation. Regardless, the comment only added to the ongoing speculation. The idea of them coming back together had transformed from a mere wish into an expectation. The fans weren't simply hoping for it anymore. They were demanding it. They believed that Faye and Yoko owed it to them to reconcile, to give them the closure they so desperately wanted. But as time passed, the pressure mounted, and the desire for a reunion began to overshadow the reality of what Faye and Yoko had gone through. Both women were, after all, human beings with their own struggles, emotions, and experiences that went far beyond what the public saw. It became clear that the fans' desire for a reunion was more than just about seeing their favorite couple back together. It was about their own need for resolution, for a happy ending that would close the painful chapter of the breakup. Yet no amount of fan support could force Faye and Yoko to reconcile before they were ready. The fans' demands, though born out of love and hope, were also built on an unrealistic ideal of what a relationship should be. Faye and Yoko's story was never just a fairy tale. It was a complex, layered experience with all the highs and lows that came with it. As much as fans wanted to see them reunited, they had to come to terms with the reality that love, in its truest form, isn't always about giving the fans what they want. As the days turned into weeks, and the rumor mill continued to churn, one thing became clear. The pressure on both Faye and Yoko to reconcile was becoming a force in itself, one that neither woman could ignore. How they would handle it, and whether they would ever find their way back to each other, remained uncertain.